Hello, this is Kat from Alley Cat's Quilt Shop in Marquette, Michigan. Today's February 19th, 2023, and we are going to embark on an 11-month Block of the Month program. We are going to make a beautiful quilt called Arabella by Wing and a Prayer Designs, and next time I will try and figure out how I can reverse the video so that the letters are correct for you. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm just seeing them in reverse. Anyway, this quilt finishes 108 inches square. It is made completely out of batik fabrics. So in your month 1 packet, you will be receiving your pattern for all 11 months. And your fabric for block 1. So today I want to go over some specifics and some housekeeping, if you will, general instructions that you're going to need to know in order to be successful with this quilt. Most of the blocks in this quilt are very basic piecing, half square triangles, flying geese units, strip piecing. But there's one block in this quilt that's called a V block, and it is these deep pointed star points on some of the stars in this quilt. And the designers call this a V block, and they are suggesting the use of the Creative Grids 2 peaks in 1 6-inch triangle ruler, and all of the cutting directions for the V block are based on using this ruler for your cutting. So in the very front of your pattern, I've included a note from the designers stating that the cuts for fabric 1 and 10 on page 1 and on page 3 and 4, so the blocks are going to be done at the very beginning. You're given the dimensions for using this ruler. If you are not going to use this ruler and you want to do them with a different method, then you'll just want to adjust your cuts to accommodate your ruler method, okay? So this is just a little clarification. If you are using this ruler, which again is the Creative Grids 2 peaks in 1, you will not need to adjust anything. The pattern is written for this ruler. Also, if you look on here, you'll see a QCR code. I think that's what it's called. If you hover a smartphone over this square, it will open up a video in a browser from Checker Distributors, who owns Creative Grids, and the gal who designed this ruler has a tutorial on how to use it. Really clever. So real easy to use. So we're going to demo this in block 1. So stay tuned. Also, when you get your packet, and today we are going to be piecing block 1 together, cutting and piecing. But when you get your packet and you take out your fabrics, now block 1, they're going easy on us here. So we just have one center block we're going to do today, okay? And it is this one right here in the center, and it ends at those dark umber triangle points. When you get your fabric, very carefully open each piece. They're folded. If you open each piece, you're going to see a sticker in each piece. And again, I apologize for this being backwards. But this says B1 for block 1, and this is a 5 by 5 inch square. So this gives you the dimensions of the piece of fabric you have in your kit, and this is for block 1. Okay? Each fabric in here has the dimensions on it, and with block 1. Now, if you open your pattern, let me move that. If you open your pattern to take the insert out. So we have this insert and we have this beautiful, beautiful color reference chart. This is so well done. This pattern is so well done. But you'll notice that when you open it up, here's the front inside and here's the back inside. If you go to the back inside sheet, right down here, there are 10 fabrics that are used in this quilt. And each fabric, there is a thumbnail of each, a picture of each fabric, and it tells you what fabric it is, what fabric number. So this is fabric number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This chart is for every block in the pattern. So therefore, we did not mark which fabric these were. We gave you the dimension, but if you want to double check and make sure you've grabbed the right piece of fabric for each block, you have your color chart right there. Okay. We also have a little snippet of the units or blocks we're going to be making in this quilt. Today, this is block 1, and it's called the center block. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we're going. And there are more beautiful graphs on the back page showing the different units and how they are put together with actual photographs. So you've got the best roadmap here, plus you're going to have real-time video as well. So we are going to be using a medium neutral thread to piece this, and if we look at follow the directions, we are going to just be using a standard 1/4 inch seam allowance or a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, which we'll address as soon as we get to the piecing. So let's go to the cutting table and let's get started and get our fabric cut for block 1. Okay, we are at the cutting table, but I want to go over some general piecing, cutting and piecing directions. So in the very big front of your packet, we have a little fabric key here. We have directions on making half square triangle units, squaring them up, making flying geese units, squaring them up, square and a square unit right here, which is what we're going to start with, and making strip sets, and sew and flip your corners, the technique that they're suggesting that we use. So read through all of this before you get started, and at certain times, and we're going to be starting right off with this first block. It's going to refer us back to this page with the square and a square method. So this is a great little cheat sheet for us. Now, with block 1, it shows us the 6 fabrics we're going to use. And like I said, we haven't numbered our fabrics in the kit. So this would be a great time for you to do so. So what we've done is we've used our cheat sheet here on the back inside cover, and we've gone through and we've marked each piece of fabric with the fabric number. So this is fabric number 8, fabric number 1, 5, 2, 10, and 4. So we're not using all 10 fabrics, we're only using 6. But this will just speed up the cutting process, so you're not hunting around and trying to figure out which fabric is which. So I would highly recommend you do that for each block. So the first thing we're going to do, sorry about that, I just bumped the camera. The first thing we're going to cut is our fabric for this center square and a square. So we're going to be using fabric 4, which is right here, and fabric 8. So fabric 4 and fabric 8, we're going to cut. So fabric 4 tells us to cut 1 3 3/8 inch square, and this is going to be for our center. All right, now I have a buddy here, my buddy Paulette, and I don't want to show you my ugly sewing room here. Say hi, Paulette.
Hi, everybody.
So we'll be working together today, and Paulette is going to start cutting because we're making this together. So let's start by cutting our center block for our square and a square, Paulette. So that's going to be our fabric 4, and we want to cut a 3 3/8 inch square. So in your kit, you've got a 5 by 5 inch square. And so we just need to cut 1 3 3/8 inch square. Yes. And
3 3/8, correct?
Yep, 3 3/8.
Once, or measure twice.
Measure
once,
twice
right?
and cut once. 1 2 3. Looks good. Is that a nice clean edge? It should be, because we just cut. We just cut and cut and cut and cut and cut. So what I did was I took the sticker off each one of these fabrics and I pressed them. So you can take that. You can take that off, Paula. I like the fact that you're leaving a little bit of that pink on there.
I know.
Yeah.
I like
And then okay, there you go. So we're just gonna cut.
Next week we'll have better, bigger, smaller rulers.
Yeah, we forgot that we wanted to grab some smaller square rulers. So next week we're going to bring our Quilter Select rulers, because we don't like rulers sliding around, do we?
No.
No.
Okay, and this is...
Okay, so now we've got our square for our center.
This is...
And now what we want to do is we want to cut our fabric 8, which is our plum, and notice that they are wanting us to cut 2 3 1/4 inch squares. And then see the symbol right here? That tells us that after we cut our squares, we need to subcut it 1 time from diagonal to diagonal. And that's going to give us our 4 triangles for our corners.
3 1/4, you said?
So 3 1/4, cut 2 3 1/4 inch squares. 3 1/4. You don't want to use that small square ruler? You like, oh yeah, you like the Quilter Select. I don't blame you.
I cut myself really bad when all rulers slid on me one time. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So 3 1/4 inch square. Yep, and then I would stack them up too. We think alike, Paulette.
Yes, we do.
We do. 3 1/4.
3 1/4, not 2 1/4.
Right, 3 1/4. Now we need to subcut that, right?
Oh, that's right.
From corner to corner.
Forgot about that.
Yep. And that's going to give us
4 1/4 square triangles.
right. So let's lay that out and show everybody what it's going to look like. Let's move it over there. Beautiful.
Pretty.
Yep, and that's going to be on point. Now, we are going to head over to the iron, and what the directions tell us to do for these square and a square units
You can use
is they
finger
tell
press.
us to finger press or press and crease and press our center square so that we have 4 creases, north, south, east, and west. And then when we lay our triangle on this edge, we're going to line up the point with that crease, and it's going to keep our square and a square perfectly square. So we're going to head over to the ironing board, or Paulette's actually finger pressing it right now. And then we'll have some
finger presses.
we'll have some registration lines on here to line up, but we're going to head over to the sewing machine and we're going to put this unit together. So meet me over there.
Gonna finish.
Okay, everybody. So we decided we are going to stay at the cutting table and finish cutting. But we did go to the ironing board and we did press these next 2 fabrics that we're using for the half square triangles. So we are going to be using fabric 2 for 1/2 and fabric 5 for the other half. So fabric 2 and fabric 5, notice we're going to cut 2 5 1/4 inch squares and cut 2 5 1/4 inch squares. Now, per Wing and a Prayer's directions, cutting directions, shop cutting directions, they told me what to cut these for you. Now, it's interesting because fabric 2 is a 6 by 12 unit and fabric 5 is a 6 by 11.5. So they're just a little, they're a 1/2 inch different. So we're going to take the stickers off, and then Paulette's going to stack these up, and let's put the shorter one on top. We are going to have enough fabric here to cut both of these together. And that's what I would do. I would lay these one on top of each other and cut them together, which is what Paulette's going to do right now. So first of all, we're just going to subcut this into 5 1/4, 2 5 1/4 inch sections. And we should have plenty for 5 1/4.
It might make a difference here. Okay, 5 1/4, correct?
Yep, 5 1/4.
I think I better straighten this edge up.
Straighten the edge up. So flip it around and let's straighten that edge up first. Yep. You always want the ruler on your fabric when you're squaring up. Do I need to move, Paulette?
No, you're right.
Okay, here's your cutter. Yep. Okay. Brand new blade in that.
Mm-hmm. Right from Alley Cat's Quilt Shop.
Yeah, but it makes it so much nicer, doesn't it?
Especially when you're cutting batiks.
Yeah. So 5 1/4.
Okay, so 5 1/4.
And then, yeah, I was just going to say, hold your hand on the... We are going to have the correct rulers next time. Let me move that. It takes quite a bit to get everything together for this.
First time.
Yeah, first time, so. And then let's subcut. There you go. So those should line up good. We have a nice edge on that one side. Should have.
Yep.
Okay, and we're gonna subcut 5 1/4 again. Beautiful. Okay. All right, so now,
draw.
Yep, and we are gonna draw diagonal lines on our lightest colored fabric for these.
Yeah.
So that one's ready to go. Yeah.
Well,
let's
here,
do
I
that.
can just use pencil.
Yeah, do you need a straight edge? You got one? There you go. Yep, we're just gonna draw right down the center. When we get to the machine, we're gonna stitch 1/4 inch on either side of that and cut them apart. Okay.
Slipped on.
Whoop.
Okay.
All right.
There's those two.
Those two are done. There we go. Those are for our half square triangles. Now we are going to be cutting our V-block units. So for our V-block units, we need our fabric 1 for our large center triangle and fabric 10 for our skinny triangles.
I'm going to go iron these quick.
Yes, so we're going to press those. And let me just speak about that fabric number 10 in your packet. That fabric was very, very much skewed when it was wrapped on the bolts. All of them. I don't know what happened, but they were all skewed. So when you pull that fabric number 10, and let me show you on the chart here which one I'm talking about. It's the beautiful one here that's used in the border. But when you pull that fabric out for anything, make sure that it looks square to you. And if it's not square to you, I would steam it and press it and make sure it's square. So we're going to get set up for our ruler and we'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. We are going to cut, actually, Paulette, those are going to be the smaller triangles, which is fine. So
still has to be 5 inches.
Yeah, 5 inches. So we need to be working with exactly 5-inch strips. And this really interesting. I've never worked with their patterns before, but we tore this fabric because it was so out of skew. So it was torn just a little over 5. So Paulette's just trimming this down to exactly 5 inches. And that way we have exactly what we need. And now we're going to show you how to use this 2 peaks in 1 triangle ruler. Okay.
One more time here.
And because we have to cut 8 star points, 8 of these, we are going to actually fold our fabric and get pairs. And they told us that. Yeah, they told us that you want to fold your fabric, and that way you get mirror image pairs. Okay. So if you haven't watched that little tutorial, that little video on the ruler, go ahead and do that before or we can just, the salvages should have been off already.
One of them isn't.
Okay.
Because it's the one that was all twisted.
Okay. All right. So we're all set. So here we go. We are going to be lining up our ruler on our strip for our smaller triangles. And over on the right side of the ruler, this is the measurement of the width of our strip. So our strip is 5 inches wide, and our strip is on the left side. Sorry, it says 5-inch strip over here. And when we follow this line over, it's going to finish at 4.5 inches. I think you can see that. There we go. So we are going to put this line on the bottom of our fabric. That's 5.5. There's 5. Yep. And so, wrong side. Sorry, guys. We are really messing you up today. We are using this side of the ruler. We're making the smaller triangles with the dark fabric, okay? So again, we're going to look on the left side of the ruler to the 5-inch strip mark, a 4.5-inch block, finished block. So we are going to lay this along one straight edge over here, okay?
That's on a fold one.
Well, we can trim it off, so stay just inside of it. And we're going to make our first, there we go.
What is it, the 5-inch?
Yep, and it should, the top of the ruler should fit very nicely right up there at the top of our ruler. So we're going to make our first cut here. So there's our first pair. So just leave your fabric. Leave your fabric. So here's our first set of triangles. And now we're going to rotate. Can I show them?
Yeah.
We started out here. You
this
started
way.
out this way. So now we're going to rotate the ruler 180 degrees, and we're going to line it up this way. And then we're going to make another cut there. So go ahead and line it up, Paulette. Okay. There's our second pair. So one pair, two, so we have to make two more pair. So we're going to flip it 180 degrees again. And one more set. There we go. Okay, now the last fabric we need to cut is our background, and this one is already 5 inches, so go ahead and fold that. And we don't need quite as much with this one, and this time we are going to be cutting the large center of our V-block units. So we need to use the fat end of the ruler.
How many of these are we cutting?
And we need 4 of them, so you're going to cut 2 times.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have lots there. We have lots to work with. Okay.
Would have been smarter to do it that way.
Yeah, sometimes if you put it at an angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it on an angle. There you go. Once you get that first cut, then the other ones are. All right,
it.
beautiful. Okay, we're all cut. Let's head to the sewing machine. Okay, we're at the machine, and Paulette's getting ready to sew the first triangle onto the square and a square unit. And
Okay.
Paulette, show them how you lined up the tip of that triangle
Right
with
here?
that crease. Yep, right there. And then we're just going to sew right down the right side of this.
At a 1/4 inch.
There we go. And then we can just finger press that out. And then I would jump across the other side and then put my last 2 on. That's just how I like to do it, but you can do it however you want. And go ahead and finish that block up, and then we'll be right back for our next unit.
Am I paused now?
Not yet. I'm going to just leave it running for just a second
I'm
here.
going to sew it on this side because that's a bias cut and it's stretching.
Ah, okay.
In the center with a pin.
Okay, so we're just going to give you a little tip here. When you're sewing the square in a square, it's easier and you get less stretch of the bias if you have your triangle underneath your square so that your feed dogs pull it along nicely. So Paulette's just going to finish up this little seam here.
We used a pin to hold the point in place.
Yeah, we pinned it and flipped it and then sewed from the back of the square. And she's much happier with that.
Yes, she is. Are you
Okay,
filming?
so here we go. We are now on to our half square triangle units. And we are just sewing on
this is
either side of our drawn line with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And these are going to be trimmed up. So
I don't like this foot.
Paulette's getting used to this foot. She's never used it before.
It's not. It's like it wants to pull or something. Yeah, see how winged off it went?
Maybe if you sew it on the other side.
What do you mean on the other side?
That's okay. We got it. All right, so there's one, and we'll do the other one, and we'll cut them, and we'll be right back. Okay, we've got our half square triangles sewn. We haven't cut them apart yet, but we'll do that in a minute because we're going to go back to the cutting table to trim up. But we're going to go ahead and piece this V-block unit. So we've taken 2 of the smaller triangles, and we're going to sew it to the larger triangle. Now, because we are using batik fabrics, if you get one flipped the wrong way, it probably isn't going to matter. So we did cut these in pairs, so grab a pair, stick it on either side, and then Paulette, we're going to just sew one small triangle to a large triangle. So we're just going to flip it over. Nope, that doesn't look right.
That doesn't look right, does it?
Nope. That doesn't, the angles aren't lining up right.
One's a little bit longer.
All right, let's regroup. Okay, guys, we've got this V-block figured out for you. This is our first time using this ruler and using this technique as well. So we are getting ready. We're sewing the first side onto our base. And actually it's this way, right, Paulette? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what we want to show you is, why don't you flip that over, Paulette, and show them. So when you line it up, no, flip it over to the back. Yeah. The top of the triangle here, you want your base so that you can, the top, the flat edge of the top of your triangle base, this one, touches both edges of this triangle that we're sewing to. And then we can sew from this side, so you can see, you can't see any of that base triangle fabric, and there's just a teeny bit poking out here at the bottom. So go ahead and sew that side down, and we're going to use a full 1/4 inch here. And then we'll show you what happens. If you get this first part lined up correctly, then what happens is you get a perfect triangle to line up your second piece. And then you know that you've positioned it correctly. There. Now, let me show them this piece.
You want to press it?
So here at the top, see how we have a straight line here? And that's what we want. So now when we put that second piece on, the triangle is going to fit right over top of this triangle. Here, I'm going to press this real quick. The iron's right behind me. And just press it nice and flat. Okay, and Paulette, go ahead and line that up and let's show them. Aha, look at how beautiful that is.
Okay, you might want
yeah.
To use a pin or two to hold it in place.
Yeah, so that
you can make the pin.
The 2 tips line up perfectly straight at the top of this block. And if you get those 2 tips to line up straight, when you get done, you're going to have that full 1/4 inch at the top of your block.
And you're going to flip it over to sew it?
Yes. Flip it over to sew it. Sew it from the back side. Here, use my little baby one. I like my baby one right there. I got a few pins in there. I have pins for paper piecing. I've got pins for sewing. I've got pins for quilting. There we go. Now open that up and show them how we have a full 1/4 inch at the top. Yeah, right there. That's what we wanted to make sure of. And look at how pretty that is. And then when you open it up, those triangles should be right over top of each other like that. All right, we're going to go to
Give it a quick press and then we'll sew it.
That worked. Okay, real quick tip here. So what I've done is, if you don't have a 4.5 inch ruler with you, which I don't right now, I've taken and just marked off 4.5 inch square on my ruler, and then I marked a 2 1/4 at both top and bottom so that I know it's in the dead center. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my 2 1/4 right here at the tip of my point, and that way I'll be able to pivot the bottom of this, so that I have the same amount on this leg as I do this leg. So let's trim this up and see if I can get this to come out perfectly up there a little bit. And then this needs to pivot this way, because these units, they don't always come out square at the base. That looks pretty darn good. Okay, there's 2 sides. Now I'm going to flip it around, and now I'm just going to line up my edges here, and I should have a pretty good looking block here. Beautiful. So here's our full 1/4 inch up here, and we've got the same amount of base on both sides, and so now we're ready to sew this unit in. So we're going to finish trimming up this block here. We're going to trim up to 4.5 as well, keeping in mind we want 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. So we want to make sure that we have so we don't sew our tips off. And then the half square triangle, we're going to cut it apart, go press it open, and then trim these down. So we'll be right back.
I thought you were going to...
Okay, guys, this is our last block we're going to square up, our last half square triangle. You want to use a ruler with a diagonal line, and you want the biggest thing you want to make sure of is that you have that diagonal line right down your sewn seam here, and make sure we have enough here. I like the fact that this pattern gives us quite a bit of fabric for trimming up. And now we're going to put this right on the 4.5. And again, right on that diagonal line, up just a smidge. And our last 2 cuts, and then we're going to head over to the machine and put this beautiful block together. It's gorgeous. All right, see you in a second. Yay, here is our block. Isn't it beautiful? So what we're going to do is we're going to separate these into 3 rows. So Paulette's going to sew the first row together, and then the second row and the third row. Now, I'm going to check the instructions to see if they tell us which way to press our seams. If they don't, what I typically do is I press these seams out towards the outside blocks, and I press the center seams in. Or we could do it in reverse. I'm going to check the directions, and we're going to go ahead and finish sewing these together and show you what the finished block looks like. Okay, guys, here you go. Here is the finished block. This is the center block. Isn't it beautiful? And the pattern tells us it should finish 12.5 inches square. And you can see on my cutting mat here that our block came out exactly the way it was supposed to. And look at the piecing on this. Paulette, you want to hold that up? The tips are not sewn off. Everything lined up beautiful. And Paulette didn't even use pins putting her rows together. One note here. This is Paulette's block, so she's opted to press her seams open. You want to show them the back, Paulette? Yeah, so we've pressed all the seams open on this block, and it lays beautifully straight. So, all right, guys, that's the end of block 1. Hope you had fun and enjoy putting your blocks together. Thanks, Paulette.
Absolutely, anytime.
And we'll see you guys back here for block 2. And have fun. Signing off. Bye-bye.
Are we going to do block?